As you must have seen on the invite for the webinar, we're going to talk about some details about PMP certification and how that is going to look in the new year from 1st of January. So we'll be talking about not just things related to the certification, but some additional stuff like the 7th edition and what changes have happened and all of that. Before I share the agenda for today's session, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Kedar Sathe. I'm working as a senior manager in Ceridian, Mauritius, and I've been an HCM professional pretty much for the last 15 years. And project management is something which I'm very passionate about. Primarily for the reason that as I've mentioned, I personally have seen a lot of change in my life post doing the training for the certification and the actual certification itself. So I'm sure you must have heard stories about journey. Is journey better than the destination? So I'm a believer of the journey is better than the destination, because if you're able to enjoy the journey of taking the the efforts for doing the certification, I think eventually you will reach your destination. So that's what or that's where I'm coming from. Yeah. Okay, so let's jump in to the agenda for today. Um, so as I said, we'll quickly look at what has happened primarily this year, the past year. There were quite a few things that happened mainly because of pandemic and how it has impacted all the things that we've been doing since the first lockdown, the second lockdown in a lot of places, and what impact it has had, not just on the business in general, but the people impact as well, and how all of it has kind of channeled into some opportunities for us as project management professionals. So we'll look at some of those things. We will go through the changes that have had happened in the PMBOK, the project management body of knowledge. The 7th edition was introduced this year. So we'll also look at how different it is than the 6th edition. So someone like me who's coming from the old edition or the 6th edition, I did my certification with the 6th edition, but um, how do I find it relatable to what I am doing as of now? What's my opinion? For some of you guys who haven't really looked at the 6th edition, then those will be really new things for you. But yeah, we'll go through those changes as well. Next, we'll look at what exactly has happened in terms of the actual exam. So when I say exam, there's 2 or 3 things in it. So we'll look at those 2 or 3 things. We'll also look at what we have seen so far in 2021, the last 5-6 months, or slightly more. What feedback we have received from the people who have done the certification, what kind of things they have to say, and then obviously what we can expect in 2022, and I would say rather slightly beyond 2022. Yes, it's just around the corner, but I think when we look at project management as a field in itself, it would be fair to say that we should be looking at slightly longish duration, not just 2022. So we'll look at some of those things, and it's quite a few interesting things lined up. And then finally, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to share it with me, with the group. What I'll also suggest is, if you have any questions throughout the session, also feel free to jump in right away, and you can post it on the chat section or the Q&A, and then I'll try and answer those questions. If I don't have an answer immediately, I will come back to you at a later point of time. Okay, so with that, let's look at a story which is being doing the rounds for the past few weeks, months, I would say. So I'm sure most of you must be, going through a lot of content online, reading news, looking at news as well, going through various articles, and the one story which is kind of making headlines across locations is the Great Resignation era, I would say, that we have seen between last year and this year, predominantly post pandemic. Last year. So most locations it started January, February, March, and then it's been that way since then. And as a result, it's almost been 2 years now, since a little over 18 months, I would say, not 2 years, but yeah, we do have some interesting data that has come out of the last 2 years, I would say, purely from a professional trends, I would call. So what happened was, with pandemic and lockdown and all of that, as everyone is aware, we shifted our office locations from our office buildings into straight into our homes. We got a lot more time to spend with our family members. We also got a lot of time to reflect on how things were happening in our own lives, what was really going on. We were able to think about it, uh, and what came out of that was, all of a sudden, most professionals realized that actually they were not chasing the right things in their life. The rat race that was going on was for something else, which they shouldn't be chasing, and while doing that, they forgot to do some of the things that they should have done by now. So there was a shift of priorities, in a sense, for professionals. A lot of people started to think on the lines of, okay, yes, work is important, but friends and family and personal life is equally important for all of us. And suddenly, the perspective of all of us changed drastically post pandemic. And some surveys that were done during this period, there was one that was done by Microsoft, and then they had a fairly decent sample size that showed that 41% of those 30,000 were considering quitting or changing their current professions. In US alone itself, this year we saw quite a few people. 4 million is a huge number. They quit their jobs. It's not that when I say they quit their jobs, they did not go anywhere, but they quit their current roles, and then they started to look elsewhere for either a better opportunity or better work-life balance, or there's some of them were pursuing their personal hobbies, and so on and so forth. Similarly, in India, there was an Amazon-led survey which also showed that there was about 68 to 70% people who wanted to switch industries, or if, for example, if I'm an HCM professional, I wanted to move out from HCM and try and explore um, some other industry, or my uh, passion, for example, or try and get a living out of something which I'm really interested. I would want to do that. So things like these started to happen, and then there was almost a wave of resignations that we saw throughout different countries. And even the organizations became aware of all these things. There's a lot of emphasis that was being put in for the personal lives. We saw quite a few organizations giving 1 day to 1 week off for their employees this year, just to allow them to spend some more time. There was a lot of flexibility that got introduced in the work life. So a lot of things happened, which predominantly were a result of the pandemic, and those were, I would say, that more of opportunities rather than challenges that there were. So um, yeah, and then what came out of all these things was, people started to go back and really look at what they wanted to do. There's a lot of emphasis on the soft skills in a way. they've now become more like a power skill rather than soft skill, because you know, every role is now expecting some or the other form of project management within the consultants or the professionals, which maybe it was not that much important prior, because when we were working in the offices with you know, with face-to-face interactions, we had one person who was doing it. But now with you know, people moving virtually, a lot of emphasis has also gone on to that part. And then you know, project management in general also started to expand its scope. So we started to see new areas, new domains, new horizontals, new verticals getting introduced, and it no more became you know, a project manager versus the rest. It kind of you know, also added a lot more roles. Even if I'm working on a project not in a formal capacity of a project manager, I could still contribute in some or the other way for the overall project success. Not, it was not that important prior, but suddenly it got you know, recognized and realized, and that's how things started to change. So Vicky, I see you have a question. We'll come to that expiry thing in a bit when we look at the actual certification details. Okay, so this is what happened really in the past you know, year and a half, and how that has impacted you know, the entire project management field as such. PMP still continues to be the flagship certification for project management institute. We'll look at some of the numbers later, but the idea of, you know, sharing this background was, guys, there's a lot of things happening between now and say the next 10 years in the project management area, and now is the time to kind of seriously think about it, and you know, try to make use of it in our day-to-day professional life, you know, day-to-day activities, and so on and so forth. Okay, so with that, let's jump on to the actual content for today. So as I said, the seventh edition for PMBOK got introduced earlier this year, and if someone has already seen what the sixth edition used to look like, there was a stark difference the way the new edition was put forward. So if you look at the overall structure, uh, here you have the knowledge areas under the sixth edition, and they got replaced with the project management, what they're calling as principles. And then again, we had our you know, the groupings for project managers. So project management, so initiation, planning, and execution. So that got replaced with performance domains. You know, we've got stakeholders, delivery, measurement, uncertainty, which is nothing but our risk. So at a gist level, it still remained the same, but they made a lot of changes the way in which it was being executed, or you know, the sixth edition was more process driven. Seventh edition, they're saying, is more result oriented, and you know, so on and so forth. I don't know how many of you have actually looked at the seventh edition, but for someone who hasn't really gone through any prior editions of the PMBOK, if you're trying to read it for the first time, you also get a sense that it's fairly easy to understand, and it's not a lot of content as such. So they have tried to be more specific to the principles or the performance domains that they're talking about, and they're trying to relate with you know, what's really happening in the project. So which is vastly different and helpful in a way as compared to the sixth edition. Sixth edition was more of you know, here's your input, here's your you know, processes that you have, here's the output, and output from one you know, unit is going to go as input to the next, and you know, that was happening pretty much throughout all the knowledge areas. So in integration, you know, everything used to come together, and then a lot of emphasis was there on integration as well. So they have tried to move away from this concept, and they're trying to make it more result oriented in the seventh edition. um, Again, as I said, if someone is trying to read the seventh edition, it is very crisp in the actual content that you will be going through. If you have worked on projects, or you know, if you have worked as a project manager on projects, it's even more easily relatable to some of the tasks that go on a day-to-day basis on different projects. So I would say that seventh edition is more in a way tad user friendly as compared to the sixth edition. And yeah, I mean that's the one which is currently in use for the PMP certification exam. The other thing which has also kind of happened is some of the other comparisons between the sixth and seventh edition. So as you would see in the seventh edition, they've tried to be more comprehensive, more inclusive in terms of what can be considered in the project management from a principle, from a performance domain point of view. And as I said, a lot of focus is on project outcomes as more than the deliverables, which was the case in sixth edition. So it's now almost like, okay, something is happening. What's happening to my end date? Is it at risk? Is there a scope change? What happens to my budget and all of that? It's not that it didn't happen in sixth edition, but the seventh edition is more outcome or result oriented. Um, as the interesting feature, as I said, something which also takes me back to the soft skill reference that I gave is anyone involved in the project in any capacity is also going to find it helpful. It's not just the project manager who's going to run the project in a particular way, but even the other members, the other stakeholders on this group, in this group, are also going to be finding it helpful. It will be more understanding, or it will be more easy for them to understand the whole concept of project management and try and apply it at their own level and make it more effective and impactful. So that's really how it has kind of being received in the in the professional domain as such. Again, I haven't really gone through the full seventh edition from a start to end perspective, but I've pretty much covered about 60 to 70% of the seventh edition, just to see what changes they have introduced. So yeah, I mean, in a way, seventh edition is slightly more inclined towards the entire team and not just the project manager as the person who is going to run the show or be on top of things every single day. So that's what has happened from a PMBOK sixth and seventh edition changes perspective. If we go and look at the new exam pattern, we'll come to that in a minute. Again, the whole emphasis is still on the principles, the domains that will be discussed or talked through in the seventh edition. But the idea is now it is going to be slightly more specific to only few aspects of the questions that will be put, rather than having each of the knowledge areas and initiation and planning and execution. So the earlier format, or the exam that I gave a few years back, that was more into each of these process groups, and then the questions used to come in a certain way based on the division and all of that. So yeah, here's what has happened in the new exam pattern. So as I said, they have moved away from the process groups into the domain category for three main things, which is people, process, and business environment. And as you can clearly see, there is a lot of emphasis between people and process. So this is also how the entire soft skill portion of the exam has been discussed here. So it's not just the situations that we will see on projects, or what exactly is going to happen on projects. Again, as most of you might be aware by now, there's no right and wrong answers for these kind of questions. So it's the best possible answer for that situation. That's the general theme for a PMP like exam. but they've now kind of reduced the questions that will be put from each of these categories. So between people and process, as you can clearly see, it will cover about 90% of the questions, and again, business environment is the remaining 8%. But again, the shift is kind of moving away from the initial groupings that we had, and they're trying to make it more result oriented. I know it's slightly tricky to understand how reducing the the type of questions from 5 to 3 is going to help us into achieve the result oriented approach for PMI. But the way it works is the questions that will come to us um, are kind of directed in that way. So the emphasis is now is, okay, what's eventually going to happen in the project, or what could possibly go wrong, and those kind of questions. And as I said, between people and process, it's going to be a lot of emphasis on the entire set of questions in a way. Um, there's also some change in the way these exams are being carried out. So the sixth edition was again primarily multiple choice questions, or if there's any situation based and the best answer type questions. In the new exam, they've also introduced some more type of questions, like match the following, for example, or you might want to select a quick answer for the not exactly the definition type questions, but they'll try to ask you what this terms means in a different in a way which is more real life oriented. So those are also some of the questions that have started to come up during the examination. Again, as I said, this new pattern has just recently been introduced since January, so we don't have a lot of feedback that has come in, but whatever we have seen on internet where people have shared it on the blogs or on some or the other platform forums and all of that, that's where it's been mostly gathered. So yeah, I mean, that's how PMI plans to take the next few years in the PMP certification area, because generally what happens is once they finalize a particular pattern, yes, the questions will sorry, obviously keep on changing, because you won't see the same type of questions for more than 3 months, because that's how PMI operates their examinations, the CBT computer based exams that they conduct. But yeah, once in a while they will refresh the questions, but the pattern is not going to change. And I think I read somewhere that until I think 2024 or early 2025, this is mostly here to stay, and we might not see a lot of changes in the way the questions are coming. Yes, the new questions will come in, but yeah, the pattern is more or less going to be the same. So yeah, what are we hearing so far from the field? Some of the guys have already done the exam. So it's still going to be a 180 questions to 30 minutes in a way. But there's now going to be 2 10 minutes break that can be taken. One is after the question number 60 is submitted and or reviewed and submitted, I should say, and same for 120. So what it means is once you review and submit it, you cannot go back to any question between say 1 and 60, and similarly 60 and 120. But yeah, they've introduced a break in the exam. Earlier when I gave the exam, there was no break, like you have to sit through straight 200 questions, finish it up, and that's the only time you get to move away from your screen. So there's a break system that they have introduced. As I mentioned, match the following type questions have also been brought in. So it's mostly a drag and drop kind of a system. So on left hand side you might have few terms and then explanation on the right hand side, and you have to just match the right against each other. So that's another form of questions that they have introduced. Again, when I used to do these practice exams, I hardly saw any questions related to a match the following or a one word kind of of questions. So So yeah, that's something new which has come up. The other feedback that we have seen so far is the number of questions that we get on agile. That has also gone up. So there is a specific section for agile methodology in PMBOK 7. And clearly, again, as the world is moving fast and quick and fast towards agile, that's also a reflection in the PMP certification exam. So the number of questions that we have seen so far post introduction of seventh edition, especially for agile, that has also kind of gone up. So again, someone who's working on agile, that's also an opportunity to score heavily in these questions for the certification. And yeah. There's also an exam content outline which is published on pmi.org, and it's similar to the breakup that we just discussed. So it's a good habit. Someone who's wanting to attempt the certification, it's a good habit just to go and browse through that document and see what all things one can expect in the exam, and what frequency the changes will come in. As I mentioned, I also read somewhere that the next round of changes from an exam content outline, or ECO as they're calling it, it's not going to happen until late 2024, early 2025. So looking at a fairly long haul from an exam outline perspective. Yes, the questions will keep changing, but yeah, we won't see a lot of changes on the way the exams questions will be brought from each of the processes. And an interesting feedback that I kind of read on a lot of forums is the situation based questions, where they try to ask a particular question through that situation rather than asking, okay, what is this, what is that. So the feedback which is interesting is the length of those questions have actually gone up. So they're trying to make it, maybe they're trying to make it more confusing by throwing a lot of information at us, and then obviously the question is going to be maybe one or two items of those things that have been mentioned. But again, when I did my certification, that was also the case. Like they used to give a lot of information in situation based questions, for example, and they the actual question used to come from the final one or two sentences of that situation, and then the rest was mostly to divert the attention, as they call it. But yeah, some of the guys have shared this feedback is the situation based questions have become a bit lengthy. So what it also means is if someone is going through the questions maybe twice or thrice, then it might result into spending additional time reading the questions, or till you figure out what is the right way to address those kind of questions. So yeah, I mean that's some of the feedback that we have seen from the field. Again, I've referred to a few famous forums on projectmanagement.com. So that's where people come and share about their experiences for what they have seen on the exams. So that's what is being happening in 2021 in particular. And then let's see what we can expect in 2022 and beyond. So as I said, the ECO, the next change in ECO is not scheduled until 2024-25. So we can easily say that the three types, the broad level types that we have for the question, that is still going to be remaining the same for the next 3 years, 2 years, I would say. The other pattern that got started during the pandemic was PMI also introduced the option of taking the exam from home. So yes, there are a few things that they have mentioned, more like a checklist. You need to have a decent internet connection, and a decent camera and all of that. But yeah, I mean, either ways, they did give us the option to take the exam from home, and The overall response for that feature, for that option, has also been overwhelming. A lot of professionals have taken the advantage of doing the exam from home. So again, it's more of an individual choice, but this was something new that got introduced from Pearson VUE, who's doing these exams globally. So those were some of the things from PMP certification perspective. Overall, in the next few years, as I said, a lot of people would be expected to possess some of the PM skills in whatever role they are doing or they will be doing on projects. Be it time management, interpersonal skills is going to have a lot of emphasis, especially with the fact that we have really shifted from physical office locations to virtual. How do you deal with someone who is working virtually, or what kind of challenges we have, or how do you resolve those challenges? So the interpersonal skills have really gone to the next level, and they're trying to use it as one of the skills really to identify the next set of project management professionals who will come and run the project. So that's something which is on the rise. Again, it's not just the project manager nowadays. In the projects where I work, there's a lot of things that even the consultants are also doing it in their or on their projects, not being a formal project manager as well. So uh, when the consultants are driving these projects, they're also expected to educate the client and put together the schedule for the client in the next few weeks and months. What are the things that they are expecting the client to do for the progress of the project? So it's more like a shadow PM, although they are not in the formal capacity, but this can also be used as an opportunity for these consultants to move to the next level while they are working on projects, and then make use of these skills and the experience that they're gathering while working on these projects. So that's really how it is expected to go. The good thing though is also with introduction of new certifications from PMI, around disciplined agile and the supporting certifications, a lot of emphasis has also come in from PMI towards agile projects. So it's no longer a PMP or a CAPM or an ACI concentrated certification scheme, but a lot of emphasis is now also being put on agile, and it seems to be almost like a distributed you know uh, pattern for certification. Again, although as I said, PMP still continues to be the flagship in terms of the numbers and the demand that we expect at a global level. And yeah, I mean, that's something which is always going to be there, but even the other certifications are soon catching up. As per one estimate, by 2027, so the next 6 to 7 years, there's going to be a demand of about 90 odd million people or professionals in various project management roles globally. And again, one of the interesting pointers that is coming out from this is nearly 75% of them would come from either India and or China. So that's the kind of distribution we are looking at in the next few years. Um, so what it means is this is going to present loads of opportunities for aspiring project managers or someone who's already working as a project manager. It will also be a new opportunity for them to try and explore a different aspect of project management. Someone who's running a project might want to shift from a waterfall type project into an agile, or they might want to um, go ahead and give their contributions in a PMO, for example, which is being used to run organization wide projects, or prepare some set of guidelines these projects that will be run. So what the idea is, there's going to be opportunities, or plenty of opportunities available at different stages for different types of professionals, and that's really the good news for us as project management professionals. Because earlier, 10 or 15 years before, the general perception was, okay, if you have to be a project manager, one is you have to gain some experience on projects first before you jump on to become a PM on those type of projects. Because again, mostly based on my experience, if someone is working on um, technology A, for example, and if he or she is trying to run a project as a project manager in technology B, then chances of that project manager succeeding is not that great. So the perception was, okay, if you have sufficient experience in that particular project or technology or platform, then chances are high. But now with the introduction of seventh edition in particular, there's going to be something for all the team members on project, and everyone can kind of explore that opportunity. So it will also give that additional taste of driving the projects at whichever level they are, and it's going to help the overall project in a way. So just to give some insights on how the actual numbers are going to look like, as I said, there's going to be a huge increase in the number of or requirement for the number of project management professionals globally. And I think now is the time to make use of that opportunity. And plus, with all the additional things that are coming our way in terms of new technologies, the way the workplaces are evolving, or will evolve in the next 4 to 5 years. So I think now is the time to jump in and make the most of the opportunities that we have. Okay. So we had a question in the chat on where can we receive the PMP training. So Vasil, to answer your question, you can visit the ProThoughts website. They have in-person online trainings. If you are not located in India, or if you're not in Mauritius, then you have other ways in which you can take the PMP training. You can drop in a message, they'll reach out to you and have something scheduled for you. um, ProThoughts is one of the authorized premium training partners for PMI. So both program and project management trainings. They've also started quite a few trainings on the agile methodologies since the last 15-18 months. So that's something which is coming up quickly. We also have got workshops in Mauritius which are coming up soon in the month of February. So if anyone within Mauritius is looking forward to these trainings, then reach out to Rajesh. He can guide you on the next steps. So there's another way in which you can attend the in-person workshops in Mauritius. So February 12, 13, 19, 20, those are the dates that have been planned for the moment. At the same time, we also have got quite a few ways in which you can acquire the general knowledge on various aspects of project management. There's a lot of exams, e-learning platforms. There's a lot of online sessions, pre-recorded webinars that we are doing. So one of these kind of sessions that have been put up on the ProThoughts website. So a lot to look forward to learn from ProThoughts. So not just for project management, but even for example, you want to learn about the tools for project management. MS Project is a standard tool that has been that is used globally. So they've got trainings for even for MS Project. So pretty much it will cover the entire length and breadth of the project management field as such. Okay, so Vicky, let's go back to your question. The certification has an expiry date of 4 years. I suppose what happens after it expires? Should we sit for the exam again? So I think it's not 4 years, it's 3 years. So the expiry period is 3 years. It's not really an expiry period, but I think there's a provision of additional 6 months post that 3 years duration. And you do not need to sit for the exam again. So the way it works is once you complete your certification, the PMP certification, you have to gather what we call as the PDUs, professional development units, uh, through various forms. Like you attend sessions, you deliver trainings, or some of the like this webinar which I'm doing right now, I can claim one PDU against this webinar. So it's not just attending sessions or trainings or conferences, but I think the way PMI looks at it is how can you also spread the knowledge, more of a train the trainer kind of on a kind of an approach. So even those kind of things carry some weightage, and you should be able to claim PDUs for those activities. So by the end of the third year, you have to gather 60 PDUs, 60, and then there's a renewal fee that you have to pay. And then once you are able to complete those two criterias, your certification is renewed for another 3 years. So you don't need to sit for the exam, but all you have to do is gather those 60 PDUs, pay the renewal fee, and then your certification is renewed for another 3 years. So, and then at the end of those 3 years, you have to again do the same things again, and you should be able to renew um, the certification. So there's another question. Let me take a look at it. I'm just doing the training. Can you send me details via email? Okay. So Vasil, someone from ProThoughts team will get back to you, and they will message you all the information that you need for the certification. Do we have a separate training module or class where all the required calculations or formula are taught? Okay, so I don't think there is a separate module, because I know where your question is coming from. The whole the PC, the sorry, the CPI, SPI type calculations, or whatever, the formulas that you're talking about. I think it's a part of the entire training itself. So you can reach out to ProThoughts and check if they have anything that is coming up in future. But at the moment, there's no specific module for just for the calculation part. They have a refresher course where they go through the full thing again. But yeah, I mean, you can drop in an email to ProThoughts, and they can check and then get back to you accordingly. How to pay renewal fees? The payment generally happens online. So you need a credit card for your renewal fee payments, and then you should be able to renew that. Um, the same thing happens, I think, for the PMI membership also. There's a auto renewal process for the PMI membership. I need to check for the certification, but there is the auto renewal option for the PMI membership that we have. And once you enter the data, and then it keeps on auto renewing itself year over year. So yeah, for PMI membership though, it's every year. For the certification, it's once every 3 years. So that's a slight difference. So yeah, those were the questions, and then let me go ahead. Yeah. So if anyone wants to reach out to ProThoughts, those are the contact details. So the email ID, or you can call, or if someone within Mauritius wants to reach out to Rajesh, those are the numbers for you again. So yeah. Okay. So I think we have reached towards the end. I'm going to quickly share a poll for you guys to fill in. That's mostly the feedback that we gather for all the webinars that we do. So I would encourage you guys just to spare a couple of minutes to send the responses for these questions. and then we'll see if we have any other question coming in the chat box. I'm just checking. Okay, so while the rest of the guys are updating the questionnaire, is there any other question or anything that you would like to check while everyone is here? Okay, Rahul. So PDU code, I've just requested that. I think we should get that in a minute. I'm just waiting for the PDU codes. I'm just checking if we have someone from ProThoughts to give me the code. Okay, what would be the best combination of course material to go through to prepare for the exam? Okay, great question. I think what PMI has now started to do is the moment you register or enroll for a PMP certification bootcamp workshop, whatever you want to call it, you get the training material straight from PMI itself. So earlier, there were different ways and means of getting the training material, but I think from 7th edition onwards, especially in 2021, PMI is going to send the training material straight from their place. So I think it's a standard set of contents that you will get, and it should be more than enough to go through the exam. As I said, if you become a member or you have a membership for PMI, you also get your own licensed copy for the 7th edition. And again, that's also going to be a great preparation material to go through and get yourself ready for the exam. So yeah, there's other standard books that we have, like Rita Mulkaki 7th edition is also there, but that's something you can take a look at an individual level. But as I said, the standard material will come from PMI, and then you've got loads of online stuff available. If you go to PMI website itself, they will have lots of additional course materials and other resources which you can go through and get yourself prepared for the exam. Okay, any other question? Let's quickly do a time check. So there's about 10 minutes. So yeah, just checking if there's any other question. So okay, just bear with me. I'm trying to get the PDU code, which I'll send it to the group. Any other question? We've got about 9 minutes left. Recording of the webinar will be given. Yes, you can request that and they will send you the link for the recording. Yes. Please share the poll with me again. Okay, let me launch. Just give me 1 minute. Okay, I've relaunched the poll. You should be able to see that again. Okay, so I'm just going to type the PDO code. Just bear with me for 1 minute. Okay, 34032 8 ZAV. Okay, so I've just given everyone the code that you can use to claim the 1 PDU for today. 32SS 8ZAV. Okay, there you go. Do you provide any other materials on books on top of PMI course? Yes. So great question. So there is a separate library of questions that ProThoughts will provide. So if you attend any of the training sessions for PMP certification training through ProThoughts, there are I think 2 online full PMP exams that you will be given access to, and there's also a bunch of other training materials, mostly PDFs and online things that you can access on the ProThoughts platform. So yes is the answer. So I think more than the training material, there's an end-to-end support that you will get from ProThoughts. It's not just the training material; they'll also help you in putting the application for the PMP exam. There's quite a few things to be documented. You need to have your project experience shared, and what things you have done, how much hours based on your educational background, a certain number of hours that you have to fulfill. So all of those things are required, and that's where ProThoughts is also going to assist you in not just as I said, not just the certification of the training material, but even on things like these. So yeah. Okay. Any other question? Let me just check if there's anything else. Okay, nothing in the chat box. Okay, going once, going twice, and going thrice for any other questions. I think we are good on the question side. So thanks everyone. Thanks for joining today, and hope to see you again on the next ProThoughts webinar. So if you want any information, just reach out to ProThoughts. Go to their website, prothoughts.co.in, and then they will be reaching out to you. You should drop in a message. You can call them, email them, and they'll get back to you, and they should be able to help you on your queries. So thank you everyone. Thanks for joining.